An aging man reads so many tales of chivalry that he loses his grip on reality, declares himself a knight, puts on a rusty suit of armor, and rides out to right wrongs and defend the helpless in a world that no longer has any place for knights. He attacks windmills, believing they are giants. He mistakes country inns for castles and farm girls for noble ladies. Everyone around him sees a delusional old fool. That is Miguel de Cervantes' Don Quixote, published more than 400 years ago, often called the first modern novel. And the question it has been quietly asking readers for centuries is one our cynical, disillusioned age in 2026 desperately needs to sit with. Who is really the madman, the one who believes in something greater than himself, or the world that has stopped believing in anything at all? Here is what feels strange about how we use this book. The phrase tilting at windmills has come to mean a foolish, deluded waste of effort, fighting imaginary enemies. We treat Don Quixote as a cautionary figure, a man so lost in fantasy that he embarrasses himself. And on one level, yes, he is deluded. But Cervantes is doing something far richer and more subversive than mocking a madman. He is holding up the dreamer and the cynical, practical world around him and inviting you to ask which one is actually living a better life. Because for all his delusion, Don Quixote is brave, generous, idealistic, and devoted to justice, beauty, and honor. And the sane, sensible people who laugh at him are often petty, cruel, and small. Cervantes is asking the most uncomfortable question of all. What if a little madness in service of an ideal is more truly alive than a clear-eyed life with nothing worth believing in? Let me reframe the whole novel. Don Quixote chooses his vision of the world. He decides to see windmills as giants and inns as castles, not because he simply cannot tell the difference, but because the enchanted, meaningful version of reality is one worth living in, and the flat, disenchanted version is not. He is, in a strange way, an artist of his own life, insisting on meaning, nobility, and purpose in a world that offers him only a dull old age and eventual death. And the people who keep dragging him back to reality, who keep insisting the giants are only windmills, are not just correcting his facts, they are deflating his meaning. Cervantes lets you feel the loss in that deflation, the way the truth, told without mercy, can be a kind of theft. To feel the depth of this, watch the relationship between Don Quixote and his companion Sancho. Sancho is the practical man, the realist, who follows the deluded knight, partly out of self-interest and partly out of growing love. At first, Sancho sees everything clearly. The windmills are windmills, his master is mad. But over the course of their journey, something beautiful happens. Sancho begins, in a way, to believe. The idealism of his master starts to enchant the realist, to give his ordinary life a meaning and an adventure it never had. Cervantes is showing you that idealism is contagious, that a person who insists on a more meaningful world can pull others up into it, can transform a flat existence into a story worth being part of. The madman does not just live in a richer world, he builds one and invites others in. Psychology offers a fascinating angle on this. Researchers studying well-being and meaning consistently find that human beings do not actually thrive on cold, accurate realism alone. We need a sense of purpose, of significance, of being part of a story larger than our own survival. People with a strong sense of meaning, even meaning built on beliefs and ideals that cannot be empirically proven, tend to be more resilient, more motivated, and more psychologically healthy than those who see the world in purely flat, transactional terms. There is even research suggesting that a certain amount of positive illusion, of believing in possibility beyond strict evidence, is associated with greater motivation and persistence. Cervantes intuited this centuries ago. The dreamer is not simply wrong, he is tapping into something the human spirit genuinely needs. Now bring this into 2026, because we live in a deeply disenchanted age. We pride ourselves on being realists, skeptics, too smart to be fooled by grand ideals.
Cynicism is mistaken for intelligence, and earnest belief in anything, in justice, in love, in a cause greater than ourselves, is often met with an ironic smirk, treated as naive. We have, in a sense, become the sensible townspeople who laugh at Don Quixote. And Cervantes is asking whether all that clear-eyed disillusionment has actually made us happier or just emptier. Whether the person who still believes in something, who still tilts at their windmills, who still insists the world can be more noble and beautiful than it is, might be living a fuller life than the one who has decided that believing in anything is foolish. In an age drowning in irony and cynicism, Don Quixote is a radical argument for the courage to care. There is an idea in Uzbek culture that a person without a dream is like a bird without wings, that it is the reaching for something higher that gives a life its lift. Don Quixote is, for all his absurdity, a man with enormous wings. He may crash, he may look ridiculous, but he soars in a way the wingless realists around him never will, and his flight, however clumsy, has a grandeur their safe, grounded lives completely lack. Cervantes lets you laugh at him, and then quietly makes you wonder whether the laughter is really at him or at the smallness of the life that has no windmills left to fight. But here is the part that gives the book its heartbreaking depth, and it is the ending most people do not know. At the very end, Don Quixote regains his sanity. He sees clearly at last that the giants were only windmills, that he was a deluded old man, that none of it was real, and it kills him. Stripped of his vision, his ideals, his enchanted world, returned fully to cold reality, he loses the will to live and dies shortly after. Cervantes is making a devastating point. The sane, disenchanted view of the world was, for this man, fatal. The illusion was not just a delusion, it was what was keeping him alive, giving him purpose, making him brave and generous and fully himself. The truth, in the end, did not set him free, it extinguished him. And you are left to wonder which was the greater tragedy, the madness or the cure. I want to add a careful word, because this idea can be misread as an argument for delusion, for ignoring reality, for refusing to face hard truths, and that is not quite it. Cervantes is not telling you to lose your grip on facts or to chase fantasies that harm you and others. The wisdom is subtler. It is about the difference between cold realism that strips life of all meaning and a chosen, eyes partly open commitment to ideals worth living for, even when the world calls them naive. You can know the windmills are windmills and still choose to fight for justice, beauty, and love as if they matter, because they do. The healthiest position is not pure delusion or pure cynicism, but the brave, deliberate choice to believe in something good in a world that will mock you for it.
Read Don Quixote again, not as a comedy about a deluded old fool, but as one of the most profound books ever written about the human need to believe in something greater than cold reality. It gives you language for the poverty of pure cynicism, for the contagious power of idealism, for the strange truth that a life with windmills to fight may be richer than a life with nothing worth fighting for. And it leaves you with a question our smirking, disillusioned age would rather not answer. We have become so clever, so realistic, so unwilling to be fooled, but in losing our capacity to believe, to dream, to tilt at windmills, have we become wiser, or have we just, like the dying knight at the end, traded our wings for a clarity that leaves us with nothing left to live for? There is a further idea in the book that speaks directly to how we build our lives, and it concerns the power of a chosen identity. Don Quixote does not simply believe in chivalry. He becomes a knight, takes a name, adopts a code, and lives every day according to the person he has decided to be. And here is the strange thing. The role transforms him. The timid, ordinary old man becomes brave, generous, and devoted precisely because he is playing the part of someone brave, generous, and devoted. Cervantes stumbled onto a profound psychological truth centuries before the research confirmed it. We are shaped by the roles we choose to inhabit and the stories we decide to live inside. The identity we adopt does not just describe us, it pulls us toward becoming it. This is why the deluded knight is, in certain ways, more courageous and more noble than the clear-eyed people around him. He has chosen a higher story to live inside, and the story has lifted him toward it. Now consider how this applies to you in an age that often encourages the smallest and most cynical stories about who we are. If we are shaped by the identities we adopt, then the story you tell about yourself, the role you choose to play, the ideals you decide to live by are not idle fantasies. They are forces that will pull you in their direction, for better or worse. The person who decides to live as someone kind, courageous, and devoted to something larger than themselves will, like Don Quixote, be drawn toward becoming that person, even imperfectly, even clumsily. And the person who decides that nothing is worth believing in and no ideal is worth the effort will be pulled in that direction too, toward a smaller and emptier life. Cervantes is quietly asking what story you have chosen to live inside, and whether it is one worth becoming. Tell me in the comments, do you think Don Quixote was a fool, or the only truly alive person in the whole book? And what is the windmill you still believe is worth fighting? If you want more deep dives that turn the stories you think you know inside out, subscribe and check the description for further reading. One honest note before you go. This video uses AI-generated audio and visuals, and it offers reflection, not professional advice. This was just one reader's thoughts, offered to make you think.